since you've been having a lot of experience getting out to events, networking, doing the thing, doing the do, right? Meeting the people, as I like to say, shaking hands and kissing babies. What would be the top question on your mind from a guy that just really gets this relationship, striking relationships with people that are new, whether it be business, personal, relationship, regardless, it doesn't matter, networking? What would be the top question on your mind coming into this today? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I have been attending quite a number of events, uh, and I've used a framework that you and Nick have provided a few different ones, and those work very well. I still don't feel on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm probably at about a 7 or 8 as far as like how comfortable I feel executing those frameworks. If you caught me off guard and I hadn't, practiced and prepared the day before the event, I'd probably stumble a little bit. I'd probably, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be 100%. So I guess I'm just trying to bridge that little gap in my just comfort level overall.
Perfect. That is a great way to start. That's a really, really good start. So let's go ahead and kick us off. I want to do a proper introduction from my man here. So here's the deal. Angus Scott. I got to meet Angus about, I want to say a month ago-ish now in Scottsdale, Arizona. A lot of you know that I went out and I got to spend some time with my mentor, Tom Hopkins. He then came on and shared some amazing strategies with all of you. Well, while I was out there in Scottsdale, Arizona, I was at a networking event. And by the way, a networking event, getting yourself out there in environments that have people that have either the similar goals that you have and or need the products and services that you have, is something that I'm encouraging all of you to do. But I recognize it's not just easy, even for old pros, to just get up, get out, get themselves into a networking environment and start talking shop. And there's all of these things that come in between the 6 inches between our ears that can really get in the way. And so while I was at a networking event, getting myself out there, meeting folks for the first time in many cases, reconnecting with friends that I've known, and also, like I said, meeting new people, we were encouraged to network. And so I met almost everybody there. There was 45 some odd people there that were all members of this program. I met every single one of them. I intentionally wanted to have good, deep conversations with all of them and try to come away with relationships, new knowledge, and, just new inspiration from others doing amazing stuff in the world. And that's what I had the opportunity to do just about a month ago. So when I met Angus, I was standing next to my partner, Nick Morgan, which many of you know from Profit Accelerator and AEO Elite. And we were doing the show together. And this man, Angus, I'm going to tell you what struck me right off the bat. Hey, Angus, how you doing? My name's Damien. Oh, yeah, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, this is my partner, Nick. Hey, Nick. And then he looks over at Nick and he says, Nick, what can you tell me about Damien that'll tell me that he's an awesome human being? And I was like, taken aback a little bit. And I watched and I let Nick go ahead and answer. And I was quite pleased with the answer, by the way. And Angus looked at me and he said, now I know everything I need to know about you to get us started, man. You're a great guy. How you doing, Angus? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to borrow that. That was absolutely genius. And of course, he'll explain to you why he does that. I watched him do it a couple other times at the event, and I'll let him explain kind of why that was so magical. But today, you're going to learn how to steal the show with a first impression, okay? And I know that for some of you that maybe you identify as being an introvert. Well, how can an introvert become magnetic in social situations? It's truly possible. And you're going to learn some of those strategies today. And you're going to learn why some people instantly create trust, okay? And he's going to be unpacking things that are going to help you in these environments, like getting yourself out there and doing networking. Now, the one trait that upgrades every interaction in your life, go ahead and write that down because you're going to expect to learn that. The one trait that will upgrade every interaction in your life, and then why relationships and business are driven by many of the exact same dynamics. So the point that I want to make sure that you get clearly today is that Angus Scott, my man, my guest here today, he cares more deeply about people having the most successful whole life, not just business, not just in your relationships, but he wants you to have an 11 out of 10 for having your best life. It truly is possible. So we spent 3 days together. I picked his brain, the proverbial picked his brain, and really got to understand the man. I got to understand the struggles that he went through. That was the source of the inspiration for really diving deep in this topic of how to strike and how to maintain really good, solid relationships in your life, from personal relationships to business relationships. And I knew from the conversations that we had, hanging out together, watching how he interacted with others, watching how he gave me and Nick both some great tips and some of the stuff that you'll be learning today, that we had to introduce him to the Go Mobile community. So with that, I'd like to introduce my man, Angus Scott, who's on here right now. Say hi to the Go Mobile community, sir.
Hi, guys. It is such a pleasure to be here. I am so thankful to have met you, Damien. And I want to, if it's okay, I want to share the flip side of that when you introduced Nick,
Yeah,
because
please.
I think it's super powerful what happened. So Nick introduced you. I was like, wow, I got to meet this amazing person. And I looked at you and said, Damien, tell me what I need to know about Nick. And you were like, this is the smartest motherfucker on the planet. And I laughed out loud. And I thought to myself in that moment, this is why I asked this question. Because if Nick had said, I'm the smartest motherfucker on the planet, I'd be like, wow, it's an audacious statement to make about yourself. I would be reserved. I would be guarded. But to hear from somebody else, I'm like, this might be the smartest motherfucker on the planet. And so when you get somebody to introduce the other person, it's like you get to know more about them than the scripted elevator pitch that they've been practicing and trying to get you to get down so that they can communicate who they are. You actually get to see more about them, and you build so much more trust so much more quickly. So that's part of it. And I loved the interactions, and that was day one. And we just had a great day 2, day 3, and day 4 together. So I can't wait to meet your community and hopefully add some value to all of them.
Excellent. Well, we're really stoked to have you. And I think Shane kicked us off with a really good thing. I mean, here's someone that's out there getting it done, and you can see the gap that's still there that we can kind of address with some of the other things that you'll be hitting. So what I'd like to ask everybody to do is just give Angus a great warm welcome with emojis. You know how we do that. We love to do that. We love for our guests to see that we all appreciate their time and what they've come to share. All you got to do is just click down there with the react button, and you can do some hearts, and you can do some claps, and you can do some boom bangs, and just do the whole thing so we can give them a proper introduction. And also, if you have any questions while we're doing this, go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'll try to answer them. I'll interrupt Angus when necessary. Let's have some fun today. Happy Monday. All right, Angus, let's have some fun, bud.
Can I say this real quick?
Yeah.
Because if this is all about networking, one of the big things about networking is getting comfortable being seen. And I'm noticing on this Zoom, lots of people have tuned in. I'm sure they're paying complete attention, but it's also kind of like we're hiding. And so I'm just going to throw it out there, a little challenge. You don't have to take it. But one of the things, and this is, I'm going to tease what I'm going to talk about to answer Shane's question. One of the things that makes networking easier is when you have an identity shift that breaks away from the old, needing to hide, not being comfortable being seen, that kind of stuff. And that identity begins to shift. Now it actually can become easy. It can become fun. So I'm going to invite you all to come on the screen. Thanks a lot for that. It's great to see you. Great to see you, Shane. I'm a people person. So I can talk to your black boxes all day, but if I can see your face, I'm going to be engaged with you. I'm going to have a conversation with you. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to remember you. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
All right. That's a really good call to action. So as long as you're not driving, okay,
Yeah,
as long as it's safe and you guys are in a good position, pop the cameras on. You know, we love that engagement. We want to see your faces when possible. All right.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So do you have questions, or do you want me to kind of jump in on something?
Well, I would say you just start jumping in and rolling, and that will get the questions coming in so we can get it very specific to what folks are wanting to learn. And then, of course, Shane definitely kicked us off with, I believe, something that most folks on here can relate to.
Okay.
And I'll say one more thing that could be very helpful. There might be folks on this webinar today that know they should get out there, that know they should get in some of those local environments to do some networking, and something's holding them back. You know, a little bit opposite of Shane. Shane's getting out there. Shane's getting it done. Has a little bit of a gap that we can address, but you've got all sides of this. So with that, let's have some fun with it, you know?
Perfect. Well, Shane, I loved your question. I think it's a great question. I think it's one of the questions that so many people have is like, okay, one of the things that I see so often is that people ask me, like, well, how do I do it? What do I do? What do I say? And all of the scripts, all of the tactics, none of them are bad. None of them are necessarily wrong. But one of the things that I find is that when you're trying to like memorize the scripts and memorize the tactics, you're actually in your head and you're not fully present. And so the biggest thing that I think is letting go of some of the scripts and learning to trust yourself. But that's hard to do if you don't actually have the belief system around whether or not you can engage in that from a comfortability place. And it reminds me of a story. I think it was Winston Churchill's wife, but I can't remember who to give the credit to. But she talked about meeting two different men, two different nobles. And the first man she met, and she's like, I thought he was the most interesting man in the world. And then the second man, she said, he made me feel like I was the most interesting man or most interesting person. And that's very different. And so when we do networking, I like to say that there's one job. You have one job in a networking event. Whether you're going out to meet somebody for the first time on a one-on-one call, or you're going to a group thing, or you're going to a speed dating event, it doesn't matter. If you're going to meet new people, you have one job. And that job is to steal the show. You get to be the most memorable person at the event. And that doesn't mean that you have to know the right things to say. It doesn't mean that you have to be a show off. What it frequently means is you get to be the person who makes everybody who meet you go, oh, that guy was amazing. That person, I felt so good talking to them. I can't wait for my next conversation. When you're that person, you create a magnetism. And it's almost impossible, Shane, for you to create that magnetism when you're up in your head going, oh, what do I say? How do I do? What are the things? What was I supposed to say? Allow yourself to ground, allow yourself to breathe, allow yourself to be comfortable. And me and my fiance and I, we were watching a movie the other day. It was a movie based on one of Jane Austen's books. And Jane Austen, from history, writes really, really well about human behavior. One line from this movie that we watched, it was a movie called Persuasion, jumped out at me. And she was talking about the man who her heart is for, the man who she seeks his attention, she seeks his affection, and it's not going well. But the line that jumped out at me was, he listens with his whole body. And it was like, ooh. And she's talking to other women, and every woman was like, oh, like, do you, when you're at a networking event, do you listen with your whole body? Are you fully present? Or are you just listening with like, what am I going to say next? That's felt. And if you can be fully present, that's when people want to spend time with you. They want to connect to you. So what do you think about that, Damien? You have questions on that? Shane, I'd like your feedback. How does that land with you?
Go ahead, Shane. You hit it.
No, well said. And I think well received, makes sense. And being in your own head, that's definitely a challenge at times in those types of events. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. I want to say the word introvert gets it has a bad rap, and it's undeserved. And so if you're listening to this and you kind of identify with, I'm more on the shy side, I'm more introverted, socially awkward, none of those things overlap necessarily. But if you're that type of person who you kind of wish you were more gregarious, you see these people and it's like, it's just so easy for them. How do I do that when I'm this way? First thing I would say is I'm going to ask you to let go of this story. I've already talked a little bit about it, but our identity is rooted almost exclusively in the story that we tell ourselves. And so if you have a story that says, I don't know how to connect, I don't know how to network, I don't like networking, I always go, I never get good results, I'm introverted, I'm socially awkward, I have social anxiety, any of those statements, those are all not just facts, they're identity statements. When I say I am or I have, I'm identifying with that thing, and I'm going to ask you to begin to change your story. That's the work that Mayan and I do, is the identity level work, because sometimes you'll know all the things to say and you know how to do it, and you show up and you still are not getting the right results. First thing, let go of the old language, let go of the old story, and give yourself the opportunity to have a different result. Because when we speak, we create. When we're speaking those things before they happen, we're creating them before they actually happen in reality. Best way to create something different, Shane, is to begin to speak something else as you're getting ready for your next event. This is going to go better than it's ever gone before. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm so excited about this opportunity. Yes, there's a little bit of anxiety, but that anxiety is really just excitement, because this is going to go slightly different than it's gone in the past. As we begin to speak, we begin to identify something differently, and then we get to show up and be that different person. And now there's some tips and techniques that I think I'll share here that I think might be helpful to kind of trick your body. These are like biohacks. If you've ever done a Tony Robbins thing, you'll see some similarities in what I'm about to share, but he believes, and I believe rightly so, that most of us are wanting to feel something different so that we do something different. But he says when we do something different, we start to feel something. So a lot of it is in our physiology. So sometimes that's like, go to the bathroom before you go to the event, or do it in your car, or do it in your closet before you go. But like, put yourself in a different physiology. If I asked you all right now to just kind of slouch in your chair and just kind of sit back and just kind of melt a little bit, do you feel energized? Do you feel like you're going to steal the show? Do you feel excited? Or do you feel like low energy? It would just be hard to sit up straight, right? If I put myself in a different pose, there's the victory pose, there's the Superman pose. Doesn't really matter what it is. There's even like just fake smiling. Science is showing that if you just fake smile long enough, those muscles that are engaged there actually cause your brain, your hormones, to kick in and actually give you endorphins, give you energy. So then you start to feel different, even though it was a fake smile. Like the muscles just being engaged turn something on. So can you shift your physiology in a way that engages you and prepares you to go in and have the best result? When we help women who are looking for their ideal partner, we do this exercise where we actually have them built into their energetic pod. You know, as a woman, when she's going to get ready for a date, she wants to look good, right? But it's not so much that she wants to look good, because a woman can wear anything and look good if she feels good. So we actually take her in her closet, in her imagination, and have her try on clothes that make her feel like she wants to feel. And then she can open her eyes and go out into the world and feel that way and get different results because of how she's feeling, even though she didn't put on the clothes. She just put on the clothes in her imagination that made her feel sexy, or made her feel smart, or made her feel powerful, or made her feel flirty, whatever it is. And it's similar for men. Like, what are you going to put on energetically that you're going to go out into the world to engage with that with? Can you put on confidence? Can you put on competence? Can you put on curiosity? Can you put on magnetism? Can you put on playful? What energy are you going to bring to that event? One of the things when we do speed dating events is we will do a little prep. And Damien, I'll interact with you if you would. Imagine with me that I'm coming up to sit next to you, or sit down across from you. And I go, "Hi, Damien. I'm Angus. It's nice to meet you." What's your response?
I'm going to say, please meet Lucy, and try to make it more exciting, because that wasn't exciting. That was really flat.
Yeah. So before the event, we actually have them do that like they normally would. And that's how a lot of people go to like networking events or speed dating events or whatever it is. They'll go and kind of like be guarded and reserved. And then we have them, this is before the event starts, we have them pretend like Damien is the person that you knew 10 years ago and you haven't seen him in so long. Your relationship used to be amazing and you are so excited to see him again. And so if that was me in this scenario, I'd be like, "Damien, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. How have you been? I can't wait to have this conversation with you." Right? Or if I'm at a speed dating event, I'd be like, "Damien, I saw you when I first came into this event and I have been waiting to sit across from you. I can't wait to have this conversation." How do you respond to that?
Very differently, right? Very differently. I tend to have that naturally as I'm hearing you say this when I'm at events, like it's a natural thing. I guess it's been there a long time, but yeah, I get different responses. If I'm not having a good day and I'm in a networking environment, I don't belong in the room because the responses are very different. But when
Yeah.
I am myself like that, you just I love that. I love that exercise, really putting yourself into the mindset of making them feel so appreciative. You're so excited to see them and can't wait to have this conversation. Some might think it's over the top, but I think that the majority are going to receive it very well.
Absolutely. The energy that we experience is often the energy that we create, that we bring. And so if your interactions are falling flat, I'm going to ask you to look and go, what am I bringing to these interactions? Am I bringing an excitement? Am I bringing an enthusiasm? Am I bringing something that somebody has something to play with? Because almost all of these interactions, I call them play. Some people call it flirting. Some people call it just relationship dynamics. And it's some of both. But even with other guys, you can kind of flirt. Flirting is just adult play. It's like we can bust each other's balls. We can razz each other. We can be playful in our interactions. And if I take an improv classes, if you've never taken an improv class, highly recommend it. It will teach tremendous skills for this type of thing. But if I don't give you, Damien, something to play with, then you're kind of starting from scratch every time. If I hit a good ball over it, you have something to hit back.
Yeah.
If I keep hitting it into the net and there's nothing for you to hit back, this conversation's not going to go very far. It's going to be a dud. You're not going to remember me. In fact, sometimes like the worst thing that can happen is I can't wait to get out of this conversation. This is going nowhere. Sorry, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll see you around, right? Like at a networking event, that is the last thing that you want to have happen. And I think sometimes we bring that. We don't know why we're not getting people to return a phone call. We don't know why they're not going to the next level. We said everything in our script. We nailed our script, but did we nail the interaction? Did we nail the relationship side of things in that conversation? I want to check with the chat. I'm terrible when I'm connecting with faces about watching the chat. So, Damien, if you see any questions or anything like that,
Lafayette says, is that the porcupine effect?
that's a great question. I want to, Lafayette, do you mind tell me what the porcupine effect is? Because I may know it by a different name.
Tom Hopkins' book, and he explains that you want to get a question from your audience. So they usually ask you a question, and for instance, something regarding a washing machine or something, and instead of specifying a certain washing machine, you throw back at them, well, which ones are you? I mean, which model is more important for you? And so it's the porcupine effect. You ask a question with the question, and so you throw it back in their lane. But in the same process, you're also zeroing in on what it is that they're looking for.
It very well could be. One of the things, as you said that, it brings up for me is, and this is something that I think introverts don't know and don't utilize. And I think this is something that if you lean more toward that shy, introverted side of things, one of the things that you don't understand is that the person who asks questions is in control of the conversation. And most of the time, it doesn't feel that way unless you learn that skill. But if you're the one that's asking the conversation, asking the questions, you're leading the conversation. And so when you can know that, instead of thinking that like, well, that person just dominated the conversation. They told me everything and all I did was ask questions. They didn't ask me anything. There are skills that you can develop here as well to specifically ask questions that go in a way or a direction, that you're interested in. Because if they're going somewhere and it's not interesting to you, you're going to mentally check out. But if you can ask questions that bring it back into something that would actually interest you, now you can stay engaged. Now it's not as taxing, not as exhausting. You're not trying to bail. But then the second part is, how do I interject in my next question something that's relevant so that I can share part of me? Because oftentimes the people that we're interacting with are so in their head about trying to get everything they want to share, they forget that this is a two-way conversation. They forget to ask you. And that's We can hope that they develop their own skills, but that's probably not going to happen. So that means that we get to develop the skills to engage and have a great conversation where we not just ask the questions and get their information, but we ask a question related to ourselves and then are able to share something about ourselves and then tie it back and invite that conversation. Again, it's kind of like a ping pong match or pickleball. I have to hit something good over for them to hit back so that I can hit it back so that we have that good dynamic. And so Lafayette, absolutely. Asking questions is so powerful. Getting to where you're asking great questions, that's a skill that can be learned. So how do I, we'll go back to the question that Damien brought up when I first met him, was like, I can ask a question like, Damien, I could ask you, what do you do? And he would give me his boilerplate response. But much more interesting is, Damien, please forgive me. Nick, what can you tell me about Damien? Now I've asked a different question. It's changed the whole dynamic. It changed the full, in fact, day 2 of that networking, it was a retreat, basically. It wasn't just a one-day networking event.
It's a mastermind retreat. Yeah.
Mastermind retreat. Yes. Thank you. Day 2, morning of, another gentleman stands up. I'm going to pat myself on the back here. But when the host asked the audience, like, hey, how was last night? Who did you meet? What do you want to? The first guy who stood up pointed at me. He had just met me that night before. And he goes, that guy, Angus, he asked the most amazing questions. Because when I asked him, and he was there with his girlfriend, was instead of about him or about her, I said, hey, Nick, tell me about her. Tell me about what you love about her. And he got a little bit misty as he shared about her. And then I asked her, what do you love about him? And she gushed about him. And I watched them both get closer to each other. They obviously love each other, but I watched them get closer to each other. And you could create this type of feeling at any kind of event where you bring people closer, you make them more excited about it, and they remember you and want to have another interaction. All a developable skill.
Love that. Love that. One of the questions that I'll give everybody that I love to ask in a networking environment that should get them talking enough to really talk about themselves in a way that maybe if I can serve them, it's going to appear, it's going to be clear. And that's this question. So Angus, what are you most excited about these days? Like what just, you know what I mean? Like that question, it doesn't have to be business or personal. And Angus can choose his direction and choose his adventure. And then I know how Angus wants to play based on how he answers that question. Now, if he says all about his business and he's so excited about the stuff that he's doing, well, I'm already thinking about the solutions. I'm listening, but I'm thinking about maybe how my solutions or my network could serve this person. But if his answer or her answer to the question was, what makes me most excited about right now is my family and all these things that we did. And I just went on this big trip. We got another one coming. Well, guess what? The next words out of my mouth are going to be not my solutions, my service, or any of that. It's going to be, relating to them. I also love family. I also love trips. And I just in fact, I was there, that rapport building. At some point, you might get into the business discussion, but it's a great question to lead with. What are you most excited about right now, Angus? Angus,
it's so powerful. And I think you're exactly right, Damien, because not only at some point will you get into business, I believe that at some point they're going to want to get into the business conversation with you because you not only have that rapport, you have a fun game going, you have energy around the conversation. Now it's natural to, again, go back to ask questions. You can lead it into, okay, so that's amazing. I love how does your business allow you to do that? What do you do for work that allows you to do this with your family and create this? Now they get to share that and you can kind of steer it toward that. Now, I want to be careful and say, we're here talking about networking and business networking. It can easily become manipulation. If what we're doing is like just trying to play the part, to say the right things, to get to business, that can feel slimy. I'm going to encourage you, please be genuinely curious. There's a real human across from you who has real experience and an amazing story. If you can get curious enough about it, and I'm kind of teasing here, the number one skill to good networking is to develop a skill or a trait of curiosity. if you can be curious about who is the person that I'm actually talking to, not what do they do, not what's their business, but who is the person? I want to get to know you. The people we like to do business with are people we know, people we like, and people we trust. And if we try to short circuit that and try to not really know them, not really like them, not even care about trusting them, just get something from them, that feels slimy. And most people don't want to work with somebody who feels slimy. They want to work with somebody that actually knows them, likes them, trusts them, that they know, like, and trust. So build that through genuine curiosity.
Yeah, love that. Always be curious,
Yeah.
especially in these environments where you're meeting people, because it shows a genuine interest in them, in meeting them.
Now,
I
occasionally,
gotta go ahead.
Go
You first, and then I got a question for you that came to mind.
I was going to say, occasionally you will find a dud who it's like, no matter what question you ask, they don't have any exciting stuff to give you. And it's like, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you. I'm here to meet everybody. So it's nice meeting you. I'm going to go talk to some other people.
Okay,
Sometimes the bailout from the conversation is the most important tool so that you don't get stuck talking to somebody for a long period of time. That creates a lot of anxiety for a lot of us.
that requires some time right there. You actually read my mind. That was the question I was going to ask you, because, when you have a 3-day event with all day and evenings, you have way more time to be gracious with your time and patient with trying to figure out if this is the right human to connect with. But when you're in a 3-hour event or you're in a half-day event, and I know Shane finds himself in situations like that, you can like blink and it's already time to go. So this tool, let's spend time on this tool. I'd love maybe multiple different scripts for that tool, different one-liners that really feel, that don't feel like you're being an asshole. So, because I struggle with that. Like, I'm sitting there and I realize that I've asked the right questions. I've done my part. I'm not really feeling this conversation. We're like 7 minutes in, but it feels like 15. I know that I probably got to talk to other people, and I struggle with that. And sometimes I'll sit there for an extra 5 minutes out of like fear that I'm going to come off like an asshole.
Yeah. And that's a legitimate concern. And I want to honor that feeling because that means you're human. If you were a sociopath, you'd be like, I got what I needed from this conversation. I'm out. So I embrace and honor your humanity if you have that feeling, right? And I also want to honor the fact that it does take energy to go to some of these events. And so if you're in a conversation that is literally sucking the energy out of you, that's not fair to you either, because it sets up your next interaction to be rougher than it should be. So it is important to have some boundaries. It is important to know why you're there and to protect yourself so that you can be the best the whole way through. Now, what most people will tell you is like, well, excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom, or excuse me, I got to go get a drink. Because I've said that so many times.
They work, but they're not the right ones.
Yeah, those are like level 1, do not recommend. You can maybe use them one time because there's going to be a legitimate time where you are going to need to use that. And that's fair. But let's talk about some different ones that might help exit more gracefully and in a more empowered way. So one of the things that I like to do is give it to the person that I'm talking to. So it almost sounds like their idea, right? Like, Damien, it has been so great talking to you. I know you didn't come just to talk to me. I know you came to meet and share your gift with everybody else. So I'm going to just say it's probably time for us to go talk to other people so that we can meet more people than just one, right? I've been there when I was younger and didn't have these skills. I would go to an event and I would talk to 2 people, and the second person would just we'd be in an hour and a half conversation that I didn't know how to get out of. I didn't really want to be in. And then I leave going, that was technically a networking event. I got 2 names. One I learned enough about that I don't ever want to talk to again. And the other one was like, okay, I didn't fulfill my purpose. My intention was, and this is actually, there's a powerful part in this too. Before you go to the event, set an intention. I intend to get 15 business cards. I intend to make 3 new hot leads. I intend to get referred to somebody by somebody else at this event. Like, whatever it is, set an intention. So you go in there knowing this is what I'm trying to get out of this. And then that gives you some muscle behind the boundary, right? Like, Damien, it's been so good to talk to you. I made an intention that when I came here, I was going to meet 30 people. I'm only at 3. I got to work the room a little bit. I'm sure you understand. if you want to come, let's go meet some other people, especially if you meet somebody that you actually hit it off with. This is a little side note, but like having a wingman at an event is super powerful. And so
Even if you just met them, like
even if
you
you
guys
just met them.
vibe,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily talking about the business stuff, but
Yep.
you vibe, you're like, and you want to have that transition sentence, and the
Yeah.
transition is, hey, let's go meet some together.
Yeah.
And then I like that.
To play this from the other side is what you talked about when we first came on. I made you and Nick wingmen. You are already in business together. I didn't know that, but you were standing there in conversation. And how many times do you go to a networking event and there's already a little click and you're like, I'm the only person who's not talking to anyone. Oh my gosh. And you have a little bit of anxiety. Like everybody's looking at me because I'm the only one not in the conversation. Nobody's looking at you. First of all, that's just a little lie that's in your head, but you have this awkwardness of like, who do I talk to? There's a couple different ways that we'll talk about there, but I'm seeding that. We're going to go there in a minute, but
let me do something with the audience. Let me do something because if what we're talking about right now, if you can relate to some of these examples, like you've been the one that had to try to figure out what to say to get out, or you've been the one that watched all your time get sucked away, or you've been the one that thought that you were the only one that wasn't talking to anybody and people are actually looking at. If that's you, just transparently, just pop it in the chat. Just say, yep, this is so helpful for me. Just let me know. If this is helpful for you, I want to know. Let Angus know. And thank you. Kate says 100%. Okay. And me too. You guys look at me as the non-introvert. Well, guess what? I've been in all three of those scenarios that he mentioned. I've lived them all multiple times. So you will not be the only one here. So, yep. So Shane says, yep, Lafayette, the big issue for Lafayette. And then Daniel says, yep, absolutely. And Kester says me too, Mr. Taylor. All right. So good. Let's keep drilling. I love this stuff. This is good stuff. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I'll also reiterate to folks that are here in the community, when we have marketing services and solutions, AI services, mobile applications, and all the different things that we do, it doesn't sell itself. We've got to sell this stuff. We've actually got to sell these things. So, right, we got to go out. We got to meet some friends. And hopefully at the end of that, we're able to sell our services. So this is a must to learn these skills. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So to exit, I really think the most powerful tool is to say something to the effect of, hey, I had a goal this evening of meeting X amount of people. You can even ask them, like, what was your goal coming to this? How many people did you want to meet? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I don't know. Hey, well, we're here. Let's go meet some more people. And just by saying that, it reminds them they did come to meet people. And if they stay in this conversation, they're not going to meet very many more people. We've already met. We've had a connection. We've exchanged business cards. We've maybe booked a calendar conversation. Now let's kind of end this gracefully and go talk to other people. That's the number one tool that I would say gets you out of that conversation, because they already do know at some level they're there to meet some other people. You're doing them a favor and you're doing you a favor.
So at that point, bump phones and move on.
Yeah. Exchange the contact information and go meet somebody else.
Shane says he wants to hear more about feeling like the only one at a mixer that's not in a conversation.
Okay. Yes. Hope somebody would ask about this, because if you live in the Phoenix area and you're one of my clients, I will actually go to networking events, or a lot of our clients are women who are looking to meet their ideal partner. So I'll actually go to bars with them and like be wingman for them and help them with the kind of stuff. Yeah. So I do mixers and stuff with them. And it's a fun part of what I do, because they get to see that it doesn't have to be as hard as they've always experienced. So I'm going to ask you, Shane, to imagine this with me. But one of the things that I teach them is, as long as we're denying something, as long as we're hiding something, then we're never really as good at hiding something as we think that we are. So if I'm standing there feeling the awkwardness, I'm trying to hide that awkwardness. I'm not as good at hiding it as I think that I am. So when I approach a group and I'm hiding that awkwardness, the awkwardness like leaks into the group. The best way to pop that bubble is to just cautiously approach the group and be like, hey, sorry, I'm going to make this awkward. I'm here to interrupt. I'm here to meet people. And I just saw you guys were talking. You were having this great conversation. I'm just going to come in. And almost immediately, by calling out the awkwardness, they will tell you it's not awkward and make it not awkward. It's like, oh yeah, come on in.
So true.
But just by calling it out, like, pops the bubble. And so whatever you're feeling, it's like, excuse me, guys, you look like you're having a great, tight little conversation. I'm going to make it awkward. I'm going to come in and introduce myself. That it literally just takes all the energy away. It's like you're carrying this giant water balloon and all of a sudden it's just gone. It's like, you're welcomed into the group. So by acknowledging it instead of hiding it, it dissipates all of it right there. So it's such a powerful way, and it's so fun. The first couple times you do it, you'll still feel the awkwardness, but by saying it, they take the awkwardness away for you. I have yet to been in something, unless they're like crying together or, something like that. And you can see like, oh, I probably shouldn't interrupt this because they're like really, there's something really going on here. Like, have the sensory, EQ to go, oh, I'll go find a different group. Maybe I'll come back to this group later. But by calling it out, you almost always take that down. The walls come down, you get invited in, and then you can do what I was telling you with Damien and Nick of like, make them their own wingmen, because now you're not coming in telling about yourself. You can see that this group is already talking to each other. So come in and go, hi, I'm Angus. Sorry to make it awkward. Hey, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Tell me of what you learned about her. What does she do? What's she really good at? One of the words that I like, this, Damien, goes back to what you said as far as like, tell me what you're really excited about. I love to ask people about, what's the magic that you do that makes this world better? So
And
when
say it again, everybody write it down. This is good. This is great. I'm going to steal that one. I'm going to use, I'm going to borrow, I'm going to use. Say it again. I love that.
What's the magic that you do that makes this world a better place? Or even better, Damien, tell me about Lafayette. What's the magic that he does that makes this world a better place?
Yeah.
By doing that, I've taken all the eyes off of me. So if I was having that awkward, uncomfortable anxiety, now I've popped the bubble and they're talking about each other again. So they are not thinking about me. They're thinking about each other. So I can actually sit back. This is where I say that whoever asks the questions controls the conversation. I ask the question. I can now sit back and relax. I can take in what they're saying. And when they're done, they're going to usually have enjoyed that so much that they're going to turn to you and be like, so Angus, what do you do? What's the magic that you do? And now I'm invited to share about myself, the business that I do, what I'm excited about. They want to hear that because they just got to share something fun and exciting, unscripted. It's not their elevator pitch. I'm so tired of elevator pitches. Get something real from somebody because you're genuinely curious. And so this creates a whole different dynamic that can actually be, I like this. You'll hear it in my language. I like to play games. I consider these networking events playtime. I invite you to consider them playtime as well, because if they're not, if you think this is work, if you think this is hard, if you think this is going to be a struggle, it probably is. But if you can think of it as a game, if you can think of it as fun, if you can think of it as banter, you can actually have a lot of fun doing these things.
Love it. Love it. So I'd like to call on a couple people that I know are working on networking. And Daniel, you're one, and Ed Taylor, you're two. And so we'll start with Daniel, if you'd like. Come on, Mike, and, share with us, like, what this is like for you when you're in networking events and what your
All
biggest.
right. So am I the only Daniel?
You're the only Daniel, sir. And you're definitely the only Daniel Tukawafu.
That's it. That's it. You got that all right on. So I'm headed to a networking.
Sorry, go ahead.
To a networking event. Technically, it's not a networking. I mean, any event can be a networking event. This one is a spa, anyway, facials and massages, kind of an event. One thing that I noticed about myself recently was, man, that was a little awkward, or, I always thought of myself really outgoing and able to talk to anybody. And that is but sometimes that can get a little bit awkward. Noticing some cues. So I appreciate this. I'm glad I got onto this particular shit.
What's the most awkward?
Questions do you have for me?
What's the most awkward feeling that you get, and that one that continues to present itself to you, that continues to show up when you put yourself in those environments?
I guess it's more the not having the elevator pitch memorized or something like that. Having to be able to come out super fast And to be able to express that. Now, that being said, the host of this, or you're partly the host, the co-host here, and I'm a little late to the webinar, so I didn't catch his name. But she said he doesn't like elevator pitches. He's tired of elevator pitches. But what I do, as for what's been most awkward, is when someone asks me a question and I don't have an answer for it. So that would be, I guess, a better way to phrase the awkward feeling I might get is when I don't know an answer to a question.
Okay. With that, we're going to tackle both, Angus.
Okay.
It's Angus Scott, Daniel. That's who our guest is.
Angus Scott.
Nice to meet you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
And Angus, I'd like to tackle both because there is this thing about elevator pitch that, okay, when it is speed networking and we're across the table and we're supposed to say things fast and we're going to get on to the next one, that is a format designed for that. So you need that. But that's not every networking scenario. In fact, most are not like that.
Right.
Most that's the wrong thing to do. People actually set that up so that people can do that. And it's set up for that. But when you're in a networking event, it's exactly what not to do. So let's talk about even though there could be, and like everybody here heard this before, you got to be able to say what you do within a couple sentences, right? So we all have heard that before. We've all tried that and worked on that and tried to perfect that. So how would you address an elevator pitch in various scenarios? Maybe there's we're only at a 2-hour event versus we're at an all day versus we're at a retreat for 3 days. How would you address that?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to something that Lafayette said earlier, like ask a question or like answer the question with a question. And so one of the things that I think is important is instead of just going into your elevator pitch, for me being mostly a relationship coach, it would be something, if somebody asked me, so what do you do? I might ask something like, Lafayette or Daniel, tell me a little bit about the most amazing couple that you've ever seen together. Like a romantic couple, who do you know that like, if you could have their relationship, that's the type of relationship you'd want to have. And that will get them thinking. And it's like, well, I really haven't seen any. Or, my pastor and his wife probably had the best relationship. That's what I do. I help people have the best relationship of anybody you've ever seen before. Like so good, it's 11 out of 10. You've only seen 10 out of 10. I help them have an 11 out of 10 relationship. By getting them to ask that.
So you do have an elevator script, but you have a different way of walking into it and inviting it with a question that actually then, this is like the yes momentum and the asking the right questions, building a presentation around addressing the questions. It's essentially that, but in this networking, just meeting.
By breaking the pattern, you create curiosity, right? They expect you to answer with your elevator pitch. So they're already kind of tuned out thinking, how do I answer my elevator pitch when he asks me? And they're not really paying attention. But when I give them the questions, like, yours might be something business related. What do you think is the number one thing that's hanging up a sales flow for a company's business? I guess customers or lead generation. That's what I help people do. Or, what's the problem for purchasing, like sales, like POS systems, or like, what's the biggest, I don't know your business, so I'm not going to tell you what the question is, but I'm going to ask you to consider what's the question that you could give the person that creates curiosity, that then as soon as they say something back, your elevator pitch is the answer to what they're asking you now.
I got it for many of you that are on here. So I'll play. So AEO, answer engine optimization, basically what you saw that we were doing in Scottsdale, right, Angus?
So let's pretend that you and I are just meeting, Daniel.
Okay.
And I'm like, Damien, you and I are first meeting. Damien, so tell me about what you do.
Well, Angus, let me ask you this. Do you go to Google and search when you need to find something really important to you, or where do you find yourself going more often?
I don't go to Google as much anymore. Most of the time I'm going to Grok or Claude or ChatGPT because it seems like I get better answers.
And that's what I do. I help businesses get mentioned as the authority in all the language models. That's my expertise.
Wow. So if I had a business and I wanted somebody to find it, you could help my business be found?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have a complete done for you service end to end.
Do you guys see how that's different than if he would have just launched into that in the first place?
So that was beautiful. I love that setup. And, we can do the same thing for lead gen. We can do the same thing for AI outreach. We can do the same thing for AI solutions as a service. You can almost just really just fill in the blank with what you're offering. I love that. It's like, hey, what do you do, Damien? And I just, boom. Because here's one thing I know about the AEO is that question that I asked him, I'm probably going to get at least 80 to 90% of the people tell me they're no longer going to Google. They're actually going to these language models. And they may all say ChatGPT. But since I know that, I'm going to ask him that question and he gives me that answer. And then that allows me, that was perfect. I love that. A great setup.
Yeah. It's a fun way. Again, breaking the pattern is so powerful. And I want to transition into something that Kate just shared in the comments. She said, short woman barging into a clique of tall men, very difficult, but sounds like it will make it easier. So a couple things here. Kate, I invite you to change your story. It doesn't have to be very difficult. In fact, it can be very fun. There's a famous speaker, a speaking coach. Her name is Suzanne Evans. Some of you may have heard of her, but she tells the story about going to a men's conference. And she was speaking on like the third day of 90-something% men in this room. She gets on stage, and again, pattern break is so powerful. And she's a wizard at it. One of the things she said, as soon as she got on stage, she said, even a fat lesbian could get laid in this room. That's what she said on the stage. And everybody burst out laughing because it was so unexpected. Everybody would have thought she was going to get up there and present in a very proper way to all these men. Instead, she broke the pattern, made everybody laugh. Walls come down when they're laughing. And now she can present about how she can help them speak from stages better and get paid. Now she gets a huge sign up because they're connected with her. She didn't come in and just try to like fit in and be one of the guys as a short woman. You could actually use that to your advantage. You don't have to, when I talk about flirting and playfulness, you don't have to make it sexual. It can just be fun. Be like, wow, little guy in a forest of tall, little woman in a forest of tall men. Like, this is going to be exciting. By doing something like that, you change the pattern. And again, by calling out the awkwardness, if there is some, they're going to welcome you in. But so much of this is the battle of the mind. This is the work that Man and I do, is how do we shift the identity? Because I'm giving you all the tools, all the strategies that I can in this little content here. But the real key is shifting your identity, shifting your story that says, it's not hard for a short woman to break into a group of tall guys. Excuse me. I can't wait to be in the shade of such tall, amazing men. Like, there's so many different ways that you can play with it if you get out from your story.
Love that. Ed, do you have a question that maybe you could float across that you deal with when these networking environments?
I think the thing I have the biggest challenge with is I've always felt sometimes I could be in a room full of 10,000 people and feel like I'm by myself. And I have to overcome that quite a bit. So I'm like Angus. I'll just go over and say something off the wall. Like, has anybody seen my elephant? I'm looking for the elephant in the room. Things like that. I mean, and it just breaks people apart and they're like,
yeah, I love that, Ed, because you're right. We are all individuals, even in the sea of people, right? So all of us have the opportunity to buy into the story that I'm alone, that I'm the only person who's alone. And there are so many ways around this. So one, doing something like that, where you make up a story that just gets some laughter, calling out the awkwardness, something like that. The other thing that I think, if you're one of those types of people who leans toward, I'm probably the only person that feels this way, I invite you to put on a new pair of glasses that allows you to see the other people like you in the room. Because I promise you, if you look around, you will find somebody else who feels even more awkward than you, and you can be the hero in their night. And if you've
done that before too.
Yeah, if you do that consistently, you're the hero of many people's nights. You created what they came for, and you go up and you're the one that's actually making it easier for them. Now they're actually thankful for you. They're like, oh my gosh, Ed, it was so nice to meet you. It was so easy to talk to you. So thank you so much for coming up. Do that 5 or 6 times and you'll have a great night at a networking event.
Well, if you remember that most people that are in these groups are just like you, they're just trying to get business and they're not real good at it either. So
Yeah.
you just have to catch them at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Ed, you obviously handle that part pretty well. You know, and I actually remember you coming to our masterminds, and you did have some one-liners that it made me chuckle. Right? No, you're full of them. You do. I mean, I remember. I mean, even when we get on webinar calls and coaching calls. So then, what part would you struggle with, or you find always like is the hardest part for you? Maybe it's transition, maybe it's the walk away, maybe it's like what is it? Maybe it's getting around to enough. What's your most
Yeah, the hardest thing I have is I try to ask questions I try to get it into it too deep too fast. I'm not patient with my questioning. And then again, I'll get in a conversation with somebody for several minutes and then breaking away is an issue too. So I'm either pushing too hard and then, people say, well, they back up, or I'm not pushing hard enough and I don't break it away to go get more contact. So.
okay?
Can you give me an example, Ed, of like, what does it look like to like try and go too deep, too fast? What's a question that you might ask?
I would get more into business questions, like instead of personal questions, like, how you doing? What kind of work do you do? And then I studied Jeremy Minor a lot. So I try to use those probing questions before it's really appropriate.
Makes sense.
So
If you,
and then people you could kind of feel them, the shade, the shields go up, and they kind of drift off. And so it's like, I get too salesy, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
yeah, that makes perfect sense. There's a lady named Vanessa Van Edwards. She's written several books. Highly recommend if this is a struggle that you have, this kind of stuff. She has a wealth of information, wealth of knowledge on different tools and tactics on how to come across and like move a relationship forward. It's a lot. There's a couple metaphors here. Some of it's like dancing. Some of it's like, frankly, some of it's like sex. Like, are we trying to get in somebody's pants too fast? Right? Like, have we earned the credibility? Do we even know if we like each other to try and go straight to it? And I know Jeremy like has some highly effective things that he uses. A lot of his are like more funnel related stuff. We're getting on a call, but like we already know each other for us to be getting on a call if we're in Jeremy's world, right? If we're at a networking event, we may not have ever seen each other. We don't know names, anything. So it's a little advanced to go straight into like some of his techniques. I would probably, if it was me, use more of his techniques once I'm on the call at a follow-up time, not at the networking event, right? So
Right.
Ed, you and I talk, we get to know each other. We kind of like each other. We agree, hey, let's jump on a call on Wednesday and we'll kind of get into the weeds a little bit. Wednesday, now let's jump into Jeremy's language and like kind of go deep, because we know we're on this call to get deeper on something, right? So that's where I would probably bring his stuff in. I would probably use more Jennifer's or my language as far as how do I build something where, Ed, you can't wait to get on a call with me on Wednesday. You're so excited to talk to me because talking to me was just so much fun. Like that's what I would say should be your objective at a networking event where you're meeting somebody for the first time. You just want them to think of you positively when they're going to think of you the next time.
That's what I need to work on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I got a question for the audience as well. Is anybody on here that would like to hear from Angus a handful of tools that will help you have a better relationship with your spouse or your partner? Okay. And there's a side note to that, because we're all in business and sometimes our spouse or our partner don't really truly understand everything that we're doing. And so there's that to fuss with. So how can we have an 11 out of 10 relationship with our spouse, Angus? Maybe you've got some tools. I didn't see anybody give me any emojis or anything yet, but I'm going to assume that some folks want to hear some of that stuff too. How can we have an 11 out of 10 with our spouse, our partner, and our loved one?
I love this question. This is what I was put on this earth to do and talk about. I don't know how many weeks the rest of this call is going to last, but um, let's see what we can cover here. The first thing I would say is it's different for men and women. Okay. Most of us think that we speak English, but men speak a different language than women do. And if we can learn that that's the case, if we can both acknowledge that and then learn to speak each other's language, that is one of the biggest things. So for women, most women want a strong leader. They have seen the absence of leadership, so they're afraid of actually turning over the reins to you as a man to lead. And so it frequently takes some effort, some time, and some consistency to build that trust. But the number one thing that most women want is, do you have a plan? Have you set a vision for a relationship? Have you taken my feedback on what that looks like? I used to be in financial planning. I was a financial planner for 14 years. And I can't tell you how many times on first meeting, I would meet this couple, they'd come in and I'm doing kind of a fact-finding mission, trying to figure out what do they want? What are their goals? And he'll tell me his goal and she'll look at him like, what planet are you from? That's not what we're doing. We're not going there. And that tells me immediately they aren't actually talking. They're not actually building a plan for the future. And she wants to know you have a vision. She wants to know where we're going and she wants some input on it. She doesn't necessarily want to lead it. She wants you to lead it. But just like a good dance partner, Mayan and I do some Western dancing. And so when we go Western dancing, we enjoy it. We're not very good at it, but we have fun. And we watch other people who think that they're good at it and it's miserable. And with that, if you're a leader in the dance partnership, it's not just about knowing the moves. It's about knowing what makes her feel good. And so like for Mayan, if I spin her more than twice, she starts to get dizzy. Now I've danced with many other partners before, and if I spin them 4 or 5 times, they love it. I get to know and I get to receive input from her, and then I get to lead better. And so for men, that leadership is one of the most important things that you can do with your woman to create a great relationship. So there's a lot that goes into that. We can go into that more if you want. I'm going to talk to women for a second and say, if you're a woman listening to this, your man needs very little from you and you have zero idea, almost zero understanding of how much appreciation and respect mean to him. It is literally like oxygen. It's the lifeblood of his power. If you just share a little bit of, I'm proud of you, I appreciate you, you're amazing, it actually like recharges his batteries and he wants to go win the battles, kick the ass, like take territory. And most women are actually doing the opposite. They're tearing him down. He's not doing enough. He doesn't communicate well. And every time you do that, you drain the battery until there's almost no energy left in them. Those two things, I think, are the number one things that I see as far as the problems in relationships. There's lots that trickle down from there. But if you got those two things right consistently, you're actually really, really on a good road to having a great relationship.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then I guess in both cases, like say the woman is runs this business. She's an agency. She's this little side hustle here. Also handles the house and everything else. And the husband may work. And so how does a woman get the husband to kind of understand this entrepreneur journey? Because sometimes the spouse just don't get it. And you know what I mean? No matter how much we try, male and female both, sometimes they just don't get it.
Yeah. And my heart goes out to you because I was in a relationship like that in a previous life. And I remember having the conversation, like, I just need you to like support me. And I remember her saying like, I'm not going to be your cheerleader. And it was like, I don't really need a cheerleader. I just need somebody who's not like tearing me down all the time. And so if you're in that relationship, it's really, really tough. And one of the worst parts is that you telling them about that is not going to change. So the best advice I can give you, if you are already in that dynamic and you are committed to this business, you know it's the future for you, you know you want to make it happen, and you don't have a supportive spouse, it's incredibly important to build a tribe outside of that spouse. I'm not saying go find somebody of the opposite sex. That's dangerous. But find other women, find other men who are entrepreneurial minded. Join a mastermind, do something where you do get that support. Because let's take it away from spouses for just a minute. think we've all had scenarios where a parent or some other family member was like not on board, not supportive of our big dream. And they're the crab in the bucket who's trying to pull you back down. It's incredibly important to find the people who are going to boost you up, who are going to encourage you. It's going to be that your spouse will come on board when the evidence is undeniable. Until the evidence is undeniable, it's a really tough place to be. So you get to love them. You get to understand that right now their brain can't get its arms around what you're doing, the amount of time it takes, the amount of money you're investing. They just can't see it. So you have to find a community who is going to support you in that until you have the evidence to go, see, I knew it. And the funny thing is, once they see that, they'll be your biggest fans. They'll be your biggest supporter. But really where they're coming from right now is a place of fear. They are afraid that what you're doing, the effort that you're putting in, is not going to be worth it. And they're protecting themselves from your failure. That's hard to hear, but it's true. And if you can recognize in my language and communicating with them, I get to be really careful about protecting them and helping them feel safer in this journey. That safety that you can create is probably the best thing that you can do for your relationship right now.
I love how you really summed it up for the male and female for what really drives them, because I have to say I relate. There was a moment not too long ago where someone asked my wife, what do you appreciate the most of Damien? And I didn't realize it was such a big list. And look, it lit me up. Like, she just kept going and she just kept going and she just kept going. And it still sits with me right now. I got chills, and so that truly motivates me. And I didn't even really know that, and then you flip it on for the male, like with the leadership. And, it's really easy to say, look, I'm doing this entrepreneur journey so that we can have a better life, so that we can spend more time with our children, so that we can travel and do the things that we want to do. And that's that leadership, right? I'm doing the things that we need to do so that and then giving them that peace of mind from a leadership perspective. But from the female, it's different. It's from the appreciation. I appreciate that you're getting up in the morning and going to the gym so that your head's right when you work. I appreciate all those hours that you put in. And I appreciate that you actually have time for me too. And that we do this and that we do that and that you do this on the weekends or whatever. Like, that is what's going to drive the male and female. I love that. That reminds me of the book I read so long ago, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, or something like that, because in a lot of cases, they're going to be opposite in how we treat scenarios and situations.
Yeah.
So
the author of that book has walked back some of his things in the book.
Okay.
So I wouldn't read that book as it stands now, because there's better books now, but there is truth in that, right? We do think different ways. We do communicate different ways. And one of the things that I like to say is that almost everybody will tell you that communication is the key to a great relationship. And I'm here to tell you that the way that you've learned to communicate, the way that you've gone to school and they've taught you to speak English, is highly ineffective in relationships. And so we've taught us how to communicate efficiently. We've taught us how to communicate in the workforce. And effective communication in relationships is almost never efficient. It does take a different way to communicate. I'd love to talk to you offline if that's something that you realize, like, I'm trying to communicate and it's just not landing. There's different ways that the man needs to communicate so that the woman can hear. And there's different ways that the woman needs to communicate so that the man can hear. And a lot of people go, well, that's stupid. They need to just imagine that you fell in love with somebody who was from France and they spoke French. Would you not try to communicate a little bit in French so that they could understand you? And would you not want them to try and communicate a little bit in English so that you could understand them? It's important for us to communicate. There's no doubt. But it's not just speaking more English past each other. That's not what we're talking about. There's a masculine way to communicate and a feminine way to communicate. And when we communicate in the language that they can hear, that's when magic can happen.
Awesome. Sonia, go ahead. Hit it. I see your hand raised.
Hi, Damien. Hi, Angus. Hi, everybody. So good to see everyone. I apologize for not being on camera. I'm actually home recovering from major surgery last week. But Angus, I would love to get your input. 3.5 years ago, my only son, my only child, transitioned as a result of an act of suicide. And one of the things that's so awkward in, especially when meeting new people, and even, people who knew me who already know me and are already aware of the situation. Um, I'm also a part of a group for parents who lost a child to suicide. And that's one of the key questions that comes up in our group. How do we handle it when people ask us? And as I'm sure you're aware, Angus, in most even casual networking situations, people start talking about their children or, they'll ask you, oh, so you have children and so on and so forth. For someone like me, who, my only son has transitioned and then when even if you try and skirt around it and not get into the weeds, so to speak, of suicide, but sometimes people want to know more. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, how did it happen?" That kind of thing. How do what would you recommend as ways to address those types of interactions with people?
Yeah, that's such a powerful question. And first, my sincere condolences. I mean, I can't even fathom what it would be like to lose a child like that. So
Thank you.
heart goes out to you.
Thank
Um,
you.
one of the things that I learned a while back, I think is relevant, is that grief is just love without a place to go.
Hmm.
And so when we're grieving, it's because of the amount of love and no container to pour it into anymore. And so
Hmm.
I think I think this is what I would offer you is consider every interaction like that
Hmm.
a new container for that love.
Hmm.
And instead of talking about the loss, can you find a way to tell what was his name?
His name was Cecil.
Is
We called him CJ. His nickname was
okay.
CJ. He was 30 at the time. Graduated from Syracuse University, degree in information management and technology, working in IT. He was employed at Georgia Tech University, and yeah, but sadly he was diagnosed with epilepsy his senior year at Syracuse, and sadly it advanced quickly. And I think grand mal seizures brought on mental illness, and I think that just it escalated. I didn't know until after he passed actually that the suicide rates among epileptics is actually 5 to 10% higher than the non-epileptic population. So yeah, it's just been a really devastating time. And a lot of people, sadly, one of the things that I've learned through my support group, as well as my working with a bereavement counselor, so many people, there's so many, judgments that are placed upon suicide. Either people are judging the parents
Yeah.
and, judging you thinking that you didn't raise a resilient child, or they're judging our children saying, that they were selfish, they were this or that because their lives, ended this way. So I just,
Well,
thought from your perspective as a professional dealing, working with people in this realm, again, my support group, so many, we have parents on there who've lost children from age 11 all the way up to 56 and beyond. Um, and the reasons and are varied. But I just thought maybe that if there was something that I could take away to bring to, in fact, we have a meeting this afternoon. We meet on Mondays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom.
yeah,
Uh,
let's talk about that. So I think that one of the most, because I can tell how proud you were of it, how proud you are of it.
yeah.
I would say the number one thing that I would encourage you to do
Hmm.
is tell his story from it, right? Like what you just shared. I can hear
Hmm.
how proud you are, and I can hear how
Hmm.
much you want to help protect other families from
Right.
that loss. And
Exactly.
a lot of this is going to depend on the container that you have. If you're talking in the support group, you're going to tell a different story than if you're talking to other parents of epileptics, or if you're talking to just random people at a networking event.
Hmm.
But I would encourage you to begin telling the beautiful part of his story. Like I would encourage you to like fall back in love with who CJ was before the epilepsy. How did he change the world? How did he make your world brighter? How did he make the world brighter for other people? And tell the story, the version of the story of CJ that you want people to remember, not his
Mm.
loss, but
Okay.
like the wonderful person that he was, not just his accomplishments at school, not just like his degree, and like how did he make people laugh? How did he make the
Mhm.
world brighter? How did he bless you and maybe
Mhm.
siblings? Or what is that story that, as you can relate it, brings not just a tear to your eye, but like a joy from your soul, so
Mhm.
that people can actually enjoy hearing the story of CJ and how he lived?
Very good.
Thank you, Angus.
Yeah. So much of what we do, and my heart goes out to you, but everybody here has a story.
Mhm.
The perspective from which we tell our story is absolutely going to paint how we're received, but also our future reality. Everything that we live comes back to what are we speaking about now? Like our future is really painted by the words that we speak, and those are coming from the environment that we're living in our head. So can you find a new perspective where you get to enjoy the memory of CJ more than just the loss of CJ?
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're sharing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That touches my heart as well, Sonia, as you know. And now that I'm 6, 7 years in my journey with losing a child, I can so relate to what Angus just shared and the support that he gave to you, because my dialogue 5 years ago with people that would ask the questions or the judgment or the stuff, and this was really different than it is today. So thank you, Angus, because hearing that is reinforcement, because what I now share is the lessons that I learned from her. I now share the lessons while she was living that helped me to be a better husband, that helped me to be a better father, to help me be a better businessman. And I then also share post lessons. I continue to learn lessons from someone who hasn't even been here for 7 years. I'm still learning lessons today. So that's my little change of the frame of the story instead of the loss of the battle. Like, and so 6 years, 7 years now coming around, that's kind of what I did. So I really, really appreciate what you shared, Angus. That's very true, because now when I get asked that question, I don't feel like, oh, I'm going to let all the air out of the room right now by answering this question. I actually feel a little more uplifted in sharing the story. So thank you, Angus.
You again for asking.
Sonia, wow.
Thank you, Damien.
Love you.
Thank
Thank
I
you.
love-
Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure there's many others on here or that will hear this recording that will get a lot of value from your boldness, your share. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Damien, I don't know how long we're going, but I want to put one last request.
Well, you said
on-
weeks, right? Like we're only in day
I'm
one.
up. Yeah, I can ramble for hours, but I do want to check in one last time with people who are still on. Like, what do you want to hear from me? Is there something that we haven't talked about or that you want us to go deeper on? I'm happy to talk about any of it. And if it goes into relationships instead of networking, I'll absolutely dive into that. That's my wheelhouse now. And I want to give some hope around that. Like I have 2 divorces from my past and learned these skills later in life to now I'm in that 11 out of 10 relationship. So there is always hope for turning that around. And so if you want to dig into any of that stuff, I'm here to support you guys in any way that I can. So.
Okay. Daniel's first one in, transitioning to the what next in the conversation.
All right, Daniel, do you want to come on and tell me a little bit more? Like it sounds like you're in a conversation already, but you're trying to move it to another topic. Is that what you're asking?
No, I mean, just in whatever conversation people are having, if you're at a networking event or if you're meeting someone at an event or however you're meeting someone.
Okay.
I think for me, one of those things that there's kind of, again, that awkward silence of, all right, well, now you know about me and now I know about you. All right, what do we do with this information? No, that's really it.
Yeah. So a great question. Obviously the context matters, right? Are we at a social function in a backyard barbecue, or are we at a business mixer, or, whatever that is, or are we at a speed dating event? Like there's a lot of different stuff here. And I would say that what it really comes down to is like, can you find that curiosity of like, so like, what's next? Like, what's the next big thing that you're excited about? What's the next thing for your business? What's the next thing? What are you really looking forward to? It can kind of shift the topic again into a new realm to where it gives you kind of fresh life in the conversation. So I think that's what I would, if I'm finding that lull and it's not time for me to go, hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm going to go talk to some other people because we're at a networking event and I want you to meet as many people as you want to meet. Like sometimes that lull, that natural lull is a good opportunity to pull out and to go meet other people. And sometimes it's a new opportunity to say, we haven't gotten where we want to get in this conversation yet. I'm really looking forward to uncovering something deeper about you, something else. That's what I would probably say is like, so what is the next thing that's coming in that you're really looking forward to, that you're super excited about? What's the next thing for your business? What's the next thing in your personal life that you're trying to create? Just bringing that excitement into the question allows for an exciting type of answer.
And I'll give you some more support around that too, Daniel. And that's from Lucho. And that is BAM FAM. Book a meeting from a meeting. So like you're in just your initial conversation. And, you know, you guys at some point, if you felt there was an alignment, you're going to bump phones or you're going to exchange contact information. For you, Daniel, you use the Room Flow app, right? And Angus knows what that is because we worked with him with that. And so, you know, it's sometimes that's the break so that now you both can go meet more people because that's what you came to the event for. But you make this intention that we're going to follow up. And that's a question I had for you as well, Angus. But that's it. You're booking a meeting. Now you might be able to book there, or you might just say, hey, well, let's just, you know, we'll exchange contact information. I'll reach out to you maybe mid next week, late next week when you're back and settled in. And then let's find a time that we can align and maybe get on and drop in a little more. That's something that I would say. So, you know, what do you have around that, Angus? And then, of course, when you're done with that, I want you to talk about follow-up.
Those two things maybe go together, but for me, I would highly recommend, while the energy is where it's at, while it's where you want it to be, don't just say, I'll follow up with you in a week. Let's pull our calendars out. Let's find something on the calendar. Let's make this good conversation. Let's keep it going. How does Friday work? That's my first availability. Can we do Friday at 2? Oh, that doesn't work. Okay. What's the following week look like? All right, let's do Monday at 3. Find something and put it on the calendar, lock that down. And then the follow-up gets easier, right? Like leave the event next morning, something like that. Shoot a follow-up text. It was such a pleasure to meet you. As a reminder, I am excited about our conversation that we have booked for Monday at 2 p.m. Here's the Zoom link, or we're meeting for lunch, or whatever it is. Like, continue the excitement. Almost everybody wants to know that when you think of them, you're excited about it, right? Like, it's a compliment. So be complimentary in your language. Damien and I, and we kind of have similar skill sets here, but every interaction we've had since that mastermind retreat has been like, man, I'm so excited about the conversation that's coming up. Man, I can't wait to talk to you again. It comes from him. It comes from me. There's excitement on both ends. Again, you create the energy in how you communicate. So if you want them to be excited to talk to you, show them that you're excited to talk to them. In your follow-up, let that excitement, let that energy, and it doesn't always have to be excitement. You get to choose the energy that you put on. But whatever that is, I am so intrigued for our next conversation. Like, you have me so inspired. Whatever that energy is that you want, bring it. Lead the energy. It's so powerful. Whoever leads the energy is going to have an influence that is bigger than any of the language that we have.
Very, very good. Miguel, I'm going to address your question this way. We are going to get this replay out today. We're just going to send it all out to you so you can rewatch. But the roadmap and lessons learned and resources for sincere networking, I think everybody else that's been here since the start would definitely agree we nailed it today. Angus absolutely nailed that from all points. And so, you know, from having the intention set on what you want to come out of that event, to how you can kind of lead and how you can get over the awkwardness and just join conversations and not be the one in the corner, and when to gracefully exit and what tools to use to do that. That's just a handful of some of the things that we've covered today. So definitely you'll want to do that. How can they find you out there, Angus? Where would you direct the Go Mobile community to follow some of the work you're doing out there in the world?
Yeah, so I'm on pretty much any of your favorite social media platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X. Not on TikTok yet. Haven't made that jump. I feel like I'm a little old for that generation, but maybe that's not true. That's a story I probably need to let go of and take my own advice, right? But yeah, you can follow me on any of those platforms at the Angus Scott. I don't think that I'm that important to put the in the front, but there are actually quite a few Angus Scotts that are pretty famous. So I'm just had to find a way to get in there. So that's why it's under the Angus Scott. My website is Your Epic Love. Mayan is an amazing woman. I hope that if you follow me, you'll follow her. She's Mayan Tran, Mayantran. She is a gift to the planet, and she's such a sweet soul who helps mostly women, although we both help men, let go of the past hurts, let go of the things that have kept patterns repeating in their life so that they can be free to experience a whole different reality. And that's what we love helping people do. So whether we're coaching them in relationships or coaching them in business or networking or whatever, we love people. We love connecting with people. We love helping you have your next breakthrough to whatever it is so that you can have that 11 out of 10 life.
Love it. Beautiful. Well, is there any final questions before we wrap up? It's been a solid 90 minutes. From point to point. I mean, we just nailed it. We're in this business that we call agency. We're selling marketing services, and we got to get out there. We got to get ourselves in environments where we can meet business owners that need what we have. And they're not going to just necessarily come to your door. You got to get out there. So to do it, you need some tools. And so I think we learned a lot of really good tools today. If there's any final questions that you want to pop in here before we wrap up, do it now, or you can raise your hand and you can go on mic. And then if not, then I'll let Angus, if you want to have some parting words just to have everybody think about, I'll have you do that. But let's give a couple more minutes here for anyone that has a question. I know some of you might be feeling like, okay, I'm in that awkward moment now. I've got this question. Look, Sonia had absolute courage to ask the question that was so valuable to everyone on this call and anyone that hears the recording of this call. Your question can be that valuable too. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know if I should ask, or I don't know if I should raise my hand, just pop it in the chat. That's fine. We'll read it out loud and we'll give you the support that you need. This call was all that. It was to support you, to support the Go Mobile community, and give you different ways to think about how we communicate. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, Angus's goal is not just how we have a 11 out of 10 business, but how we have an 11 out of 10 whole life. And it starts with how we communicate and how we make people feel. Okay, Kate says, I really needed to hear all of that. I'm just starting to get out and about again. Thank you so much. Yes, Angus, that's awesome. Angus, Kate's had quite the journey. She's out across the pond out in the UK. And
Nice.
we've done a lot of work with Kate, so it's really good to see her back getting in the mix, Kate. Yep. Love it. That's why I said when you came on, this is perfectly timed for you. Perfectly timed for you. And I know it was helpful for you as well, Ed and Daniel. And if anybody else wants to, well, let's do that. I'm not seeing any other questions. So we're going to do a few things here. We're going to give Angus that big, everybody come off mute and show him how much you love him today. But let's let you maybe have some final words for everybody, Angus.
First of all, Damien, it has been a pleasure knowing you for the last 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it's been. I can't wait to see where our paths cross several times in the future. I'm so excited about the work that you guys are doing and us working with you guys to put our content onto the AI engines and stuff like that too. I will say it's been a pleasure getting to know you guys. I appreciate the vulnerable conversations, the questions that you asked. I hope that the skills and tactics that I've brought are useful to you. And I will say that if you feel like you already have a bunch of those skills and tactics, or you take these skills and tactics out into the future and it still feels like it's pulling teeth, it is typically an identity issue. And when we shift that identity, that's when things really begin to break through. So if you know that you're the type of person who, I know I've got my own stories, I've got my own baggage, my own language that is holding me back, and I'm ready to let go of that so that I can fly, so that I can have that 11 out of 10 without the struggle, without the charge on everything. There's a link right there in the chat. That just gives you access to my calendar. Let's have a connection call. I'd love to have a one-on-one chat with you and just see what it would look like for you to have that breakthrough so that everything gets a lot easier. You're not fighting yourself. You're not sabotaging yourself. Your conscious mind and your unconscious mind align. The results get easy. So
beautiful. Thank you so much, Angus. I really appreciate all the content you shared and the wisdom today, because this is very much on time and needed. So everybody give him a big unmute. Let him know there's a human on the other end. It's not a chat bot. That, in this world of AI, you're human and you love what you just experienced. Go ahead.
Damien.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Angus.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
been a pleasure.
Thank you, Damien.
Go kick some ass, guys.
Thank
take
you,
some
Angus.
names.
Thank you, Damien. Everybody,
Make the world a better
have
place.
a blessed week.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Angus. Loved it all. Thank you, Derek, in the background. Thank you for the emojis. Thank you for the hearts and the interaction. Hope you love this stuff. And by the way, if you guys remember the Go Mobile happy hours that I just woke up one day and realized I'd been doing it for about 3.5 or 4 years, and you've missed that, tell me. Send me messages, because having Tom Hopkins on with you recently, having Angus on with you, I'm starting to feel like maybe you guys want some more of this. So I hope you do. If you do, we'll figure out how to make that happen. What we like to say now is go mobile or go home. Hey, everybody, take care. Watch your inbox. We're going live again on Friday. With that, over and out. Thank you, Angus.
I guess. Thanks, Damien.
Bye,
Appreciate
everybody.
it.